Today on the show,
I can't think of a better solution to find experts at different things.
how online freelancers are revolutionizing business. Welcome to the Not Another Real Estate Investing Podcast, Episode 2. I'm Danny Riendeau. I'm joined once again by Brian Davis. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Danny, how you doing?
Good. So I think we wanted to talk this episode about freelancing, about using the internet to find freelancers, which has been a kind of a central part of your business for a while now, right?
Yeah, it feels like the most useful thing that we can share with the audience, because we've been able to really get an incredible amount accomplished without having to find people that are within close proximity to our office here in Connecticut. We've been able to outsource around the world. We've been able to find some really great people at really great prices.
Well, you and I met through Upwork, one of the many websites, freelancing websites out there. Can you talk to me a little bit about how else you have used Upwork to find clients and for what purposes?
Yeah, so we've been outsourcing all types of different jobs, from building lists. For an example might be looking for guests for the podcast. I can hire somebody overseas at $3 an hour to go through SoundCloud, look for people that are podcasting in real estate, podcasting for small business, build a list, put that list together, and also send a message through their website asking them if they would like to be interviewed for the podcast. We also have found telemarketers. We've found data entry. We found attorneys, accountants, bookkeepers, graphic designers, even, machine learning and AI experts are on Upwork. I've probably hired maybe over 200 people in different facets of the business, in different, just to do anything from, full-time, long-term to just small, simple projects, just, grabbing data off of a website and bringing it to an Excel spreadsheet.
I've been singing the praises of this Upwork website to a lot of folks for a while now, and their eyes kind of glaze over a little bit. Like they can't quite understand what it is, but it's pretty basic, right? I mean, for you, the buyer, you just post the job. Me, the seller, the guy that's got the skill that he wants to be able to sell to someone. I just go on, find the job that you posted, make a bid, and you decide which of those bids that you like best, and that's what connects us. And then it's all kind of the fee structure all kind of works through the Upwork platform, so no one's going to get too worried about getting shafted one way or the other.
Right. Yeah. So the way it works is you create an account on Upwork as an employer, and you post a job, and that job can either be hourly or a fixed price, and you enter the description just like you would any job or task you need done. You give an idea of, the price range you're looking to pay for that job. You send it off onto the website. It goes active. And then people that are interested apply for the job, or you can invite people to come bid on the post or the job posting to see if they're interested in taking care of the work. And it works a lot like Yelp or any of those sites for reviews, Angie's List, where the longer a contractor has been working, the more reviews they have. And then you can read those reviews, 1 to 5 stars. You can understand if a freelancer really gets jobs done with other people that they're working with. And it's really incredibly fast because there's people from all over the world on there. There must be millions of people on the site, and they're from every country across the world. It's amazing how well people speak English and how talented some people are. And the beauty of it is that you can post the most simple job in the world, and you can have somebody start working on it immediately. You can post a job for a logo, and you can be willing to pay $10 or $15, and you can get, I've got some pretty incredible logos developed for $15, and somebody can start working for you for $3 an hour and start gathering data, gathering emails, gathering websites, phone numbers, so that you can reach out and contact people. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to hiring the right people and organizing them in a certain way, so that you just have to understand what needs to be done and you kind of fill those jobs through the website.
We've got some examples of that in the room. We've got some actual additional guests on the program today, Vali and Emerson and Ryan, who have all worked for you for a little bit of time. Brian, do you want to kind of introduce them and kind of talk a little bit about their contributions to the team?
Yeah, so Vali was actually the first freelancer that I hired on Upwork, and this dates back to 2016, September 2016, I believe. And Vali has worked as a project manager. He's helped me for a long time. Every morning we would get on the phone for an hour or two and talk about business strategy, what needed to happen with the business, what direction we'd go in. So Vali, you're over there. Maybe you could give everybody kind of a feeling of your experience on Upwork and how our work life has kind of worked out together.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. So I've been working for almost 2 years with Brian, but really it's been 6 years as a freelancer. So I've kind of seen the bad and the good, and I've tried to put everything I know into working with Brian. We hired together many people on Upwork, so it was kind of half-half on the decision.
Well, you mentioned that there was the bad and the good. Why don't we take both of those in turn? Why don't you start with the bad? What are some of have you mostly been using Upwork to find those freelancing gigs online over your over this career?
Yeah, I actually use multiple freelancing websites, but Upwork has been the best for me, and it's, I think, the biggest. There's also freelancer.com, which might be bigger, but it's full of spam, mostly with bad jobs and not as of quality as Upwork. So I would really recommend Upwork.
Yeah, I've experimented with some others as well. There's guru.com as well, Angel List. Guru is another example of a site that it just hasn't been managed as well. Again, it's just kind of filled with, as you mentioned, like kind of spam jobs or low quality jobs that pay very little. What I love about Upwork is that you can just depend on getting your money every week. You know, you don't have to fool around too much.
Right. And there are quality clients and quality freelancers there. And of course we found good and bad on Upwork. But it's important for me at least, it's important to hire slowly and fire quickly. That's been my strategy.
Do you have any advice for people starting out? If they have a small company, they want to find some additional help. What would be the one or two pieces of advice you'd give them when they're kind of first getting into trying to find online freelancers?
Invite as many people as you can and talk to as many people as you can. And then once you find someone, it's actually better to maybe hire 2 people to start with. That's actually what Brian did. And it was me and one girl called Linda. But unfortunately, she didn't stick around because one of the problem with some freelancers is that, some of them are not honest, not 100% honest. And I unfortunately found her to be lying to Brian. So I had to tell him that she was kind of stealing hours because I could see like you can add manual time. And she was saying that she's away, and then on those hours that she was supposed to be away, manual time. So that was a concern, and it didn't happen only once.
Right. Yeah. So the bad side of Upwork, I have a few other things that I could add there, since I've actually been the one writing the checks. I've felt the bad a lot more, I think, than Vali has felt it on the employer side of things. The thing is that people might have okay reviews, and when you first start out, a lot of people don't want to give bad reviews because they don't want maybe retribution from a freelancer, or they just don't want to leave on bad terms. And a lot of people don't want to leave on bad terms. So they would rather just give 5 stars as somebody asks for them and then says great job and moves on. We have worked on developing software, and we've hired people on an hourly basis. And sometimes when you hire certain freelancers on an hourly basis, and if it's something like software development and you don't have clear objectives and clear deliverables, you end up with a freelancer that's working on something, and they kind of want the project to go on indefinitely forever so that they have constant employment from you. So there's not really an incentive to finish the job when you're doing something like software development, and you don't really understand software development at all. So it's easy for somebody to just drag a project out, and it could cost a fortune by the time you get done with it. So
it sort of depends how you want to structure the contract, though, right? Instead of giving them just hourly money, you can do it sort of with a milestone system where you expect certain amount of code to be done by this date, and then the money gets released to them. So you can kind of get around that. Or am I right in saying that? Because I haven't done a lot of hiring on Upwork. I've just been selling.
Right. Yeah. So that was a mistake at the beginning. So it's a lot better if you have a clear deliverable for somebody and they can, deliver that one piece of whatever you're looking for at a fixed price. And then at least you know exactly what you're paying for. They have an incentive to get it done as soon as possible, to do the job right. Because if it's a fixed price, they don't want to deliver it and have to keep fixing it. And if your contract is dependent on getting through some testing and being usable, then they're going to look to do a good job. It's not always that simple. Sometimes you just don't know where the project's going to go, and it's not that clear. So you have to go hourly. So just from our experience, you really need to, it's best if you hire people with a good long track record. And I've found that one really great tip to hiring people is to read the comments that are left for them. And if you can find somebody with a lot of positive comments and remarks, and it appears that the comments are long and they're written by somebody really intelligent, then you can give that a lot more weight than just 5 stars and a very short comment. I didn't realize this, but I started to see that trend recurring as I was hiring people. And I would notice that the people that were really great had these comments in the reviews that were just long, and it was from people that were well spoken, that you could almost trust to properly evaluate an employee or a freelancer.
Well, we've got a few other people in the room. We should probably get them in on the conversation, Brian. Do you want to introduce Emerson and Ryan?
Emerson is a telemarketer that we brought on over a year ago. And Emerson is originally from the Bay Area in the States. And he moved to Nicaragua. Emerson works from Nicaragua, making phone calls to people, wholesaling properties for us, and finding contractors, dealing with agents, and helping us run some due diligence on properties. And so maybe Emerson can just talk about his experience a little bit with us and how his freelancing has been.
Hey, Emerson.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. Yeah. Tell us more about your experience living down there in the tropics.
Just to kind of touch on what Brian's talking about on like the hiring process. Like for me, I would say that I kind of broke the mold because I didn't fit anything of what Brian said. I didn't have any reviews because, for one, I had just started with the Upwork platform. I just probably had maybe like 1 or 2 little part-time gigs that I did, and I don't even think that I had a review. So what I did was I bid it on Brian's job posting, and then I added a recording of me. So I just recorded like, hey, I'm Emerson. I've worked in this, and that, and then Brian like responded to that like 10 or 15 minutes later, and I told him that I had experience in like telemarketing and sales and customer service, but I've never worked in real estate. So him and I just had maybe like a 40-minute interview / conversation, and he just kind of was telling me what he was expecting of me, and I thank him because he gave me a chance with not really anything to kind of no one to vouch for me. So that was and here I am like a year plus later.
Were you already down in Nicaragua before you decided to start trying to work online, or did the online work start first? Then go ahead.
Yes. So I got the experience I got in telemarketing. I got here in Nicaragua. In the States, I was a union iron worker. So I worked construction. So that kind of helped me too, because I deal with a lot of contractors, and I know how you have to speak to those guys. You don't speak to them like you would speak to a sales guy. Yeah, you don't speak to them like that. Yeah. But the telemarketing aspect of my experience I got from here in Nicaragua, because here is like the call center is like a booming thing down here, where you have a bunch of companies from the States, from all over the world, that outsource their phone calls to Nicaragua. And I got plenty of experience, from Google AdWords to Sprint, the cell phones, to Match.com, etc. So I got my feet wet, and then I just decided that I didn't want to work for a call center and kind of like a digital sweatshop, and I just wanted to
Totally.
work. I just wanted to work from home and kind of do, work from the comfort of my home and do my own thing and, make some money on, on the way. But
And getting paid in American dollars when you're living,
getting it paid in American dollars tax free, so is also a plus.
No doubt.
I learned a lot. I mean, in this almost a year and a half. I mean, I've learned tons about real estate, just like the lingo, like the jargon they use speaking to agents, and I speak to people from almost every state, from the East Coast to Midwest to South, all over. It's awesome. I find buyers and I set up showings, and it's a really cool gig. I'm learning a lot. Still learning every day.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, Emerson. So just so the listeners have an idea, a lot of guys sound like you down there as well. It's not just, you're not just this, one in a million guy. If you could just talk about the types of guys that are looking for work down there, and what's kind of the going rate for pay in Nicaragua for something like that beyond what we're currently doing.
Right. So I'll give you guys an example. So there's, English is spoken here, like they teach it in school and stuff. So I guess the quality of English is pretty good. It's not native, but you can find a lot of fluent speakers down here, not quite native, but not quite, like maybe on a 1 to 5, you can find like a solid 3.5, 4 down here. And then like the going rate for, let's say for a call center, like to start off as an agent, just taking calls or making calls at a call center is about maybe $550 a month minus taxes. So after taxes, you're talking about maybe like $480 or something like that in a month. So
that's like $3 or $4 an hour tops, right?
If that, yeah.
I mean, for some of these guys,
yeah.
Right?
But then, you got management positions, and then there's some sales campaigns where you get commission and stuff. And I mean, it kind of, averages out. But of course, the big company are the ones that win. The agent always gets screwed in the end.
Except for you.
Yeah, I'm solo, man. I'm at my house. Yeah, I don't got to deal with none of those guys. So so I'm the lucky one, man. I mean, but right now, I guess here in the country, I mean, I know a lot of guys that are working from home, like guys that have lived in the States that kind of have experience in call center like me, and that lived out there and kind of know the way to speak to people, and even doing just customer service jobs from home. I mean, you can find all kinds of stuff on Upwork. There's anything you can imagine, like you guys said, anything. It's there. So if all you got to do is just post the right job and put the right keywords in there, and you should be, people could hire anybody, no problem.
There's also, just to make quick note, we had posted on Craigslist in the past down in Central America, and we got a ton of responses. I'm not sure that we ever ended up using anybody from that, but that's also another route for people to go, is to jump on Craigslist, post jobs, and there's tons of telemarketers that are available for work down that way. It's just a matter of talking to people. You also need to manage people appropriately. So maybe we can kind of transition into that a little bit to just help the listeners understand, how do you manage somebody virtually, which is, it can be very challenging not having people in your office at all times. So Upwork has this platform where when you hire somebody hourly, they take snapshots of the user's screen of the person that's working, and they also show the activity level of somebody in terms of mouse clicks, keyboard strokes, and then they take a photo of the screenshot of whatever's on their screen while they're working. So if you're hiring somebody hourly and you don't allow them to manually log the hours, then you can really watch what is somebody doing on their screen, and how much are they working? There's also another feature where if somebody has a webcam, it will take a photo of the person while they're working at their computer. And I didn't even realize that was an option, but I noticed that the person that we use for the user, for the UI design, user interface design, I had dropped in to check out snapshots of his work, and I noticed that his photo, his face, was next to every screenshot that they had taken. So you actually know who's working, that it's actually them. It has a photo of the screen so you could see what they're working on. And it's completely random when they'll take the snapshot of their screen, and it also logs their keystrokes and mouse clicks. For somebody like a telemarketer like Emerson, it's he's on the phone. So if you wanted to watch a telemarketer, you'd probably just have to track their telephone minutes and their calls and that sort of thing. But for most jobs that are just admin, list building, even software development, if you're going hourly, you can just hire people through Upwork, manage them through this time tracking system. And then if there's any issue, you can always dispute it or ask them to take care of it. It really keeps people pretty honest, and it keeps people working on what they should be working on. And if you find that somebody's not that honest with it, then you could talk to them. And if it continues, then you can just easily let them go. And since they're not in your office and they're freelancers, it's easy to bring people on and to let people go. And then you could really just find the most talented people so that you could build a great team really, really quickly. You don't need a bunch of full-time people. And the thing is, when you only have a few hours of work in a certain area, it's nearly impossible to hire these people and bring them into your office. By hiring people virtually on Upwork, you can hire people to just do small jobs consistently. An example of this, a really good example, I think, is we use AWS, Amazon Web Services, to store all of our data, to run all of our software. Just everything we do, it's all in the cloud, it's all virtual. And the first month that we had AWS, I got a bill for $1,700. That was really not a great day for me to spend $1,700 for cloud computing. So I ended up posting a job for somebody that is an expert in AWS. And I ended up finding a cost optimization expert for AWS. And that's specifically his job title. And so he was able to come in, he was able to bring our bill from $1,700 down to about $400. And ever since then, he's been on the team, and he'll log, an hour or two a week. He'll set up an instance on AWS or a database, or give somebody access. And it's just a very small job, but it's a very important job. And, this guy's $30 an hour. He'll log an hour or two a week, and he's on the team, and it's very minimal, but what he provides us is enormous. And if we were to try to find somebody to come into the office for that job in America, it would be incredibly expensive. But, we're almost like sharing him with maybe 20 other companies that need the same work done. And so he can work for small businesses. He can make a living where he's at in India, and we can all get an expert at what we need in a very simple, easy way. And so it kind of makes the world, I don't know what the term is, it makes the world flat.
Thomas Friedman's book from about 10 years ago talked about how the world was becoming flat, that we're all basically living on the same country, the same kind of labor market. And I think that's what Upwork kind of perfectly illustrates, right? The idea that there's this sort of global labor market you can draw on now. You don't have to just worry about drawing people from your city or your state or from your country.
Right. Yeah. And it's incredible. So, we work with people, just to give an example, Emerson's in Central America, Vali's in Romania. We have a bunch of people in Eastern Europe. We've worked with a bunch of people in the UK, Australia, India, Philippines, Africa. We have some people from America that we work with for specific jobs. Danny, you're in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's people from all over the place. I can't think of a better solution to somebody with our type of business than to be able to find people, and a bunch of different people, and to find experts at different things, and to be able to bring them together. It's really revolutionized, I think, most businesses in general, if they can implement these sorts of techniques. And it's made things like what we're trying to do possible.
Well, we have one more guest we still haven't gotten to, and that's Ryan. Do you want to throw to Ryan, Brian, and talk a little bit about his contribution to your team?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Ryan, he's been with us for over a year now. He's kind of out of college. new real estate agent, and he's turned into kind of a project manager for the team. Yeah, so maybe Ryan, you could just give us your take on, hiring virtual people and kind of how you feel about it.
Brian sort of got into it, and he definitely deals most with the hiring. Yeah, the way I see it is I sort of project manage the real estate side in office. I work in office with Brian, and kind of Vali deals with the software. So a lot of times Brian will hire people on Upwork for a job that we need, and then he'll sort of delegate either to me or Vali, depending upon the job. Danny, I know you sort of mentioned this podcast really wouldn't even exist if we didn't use Upwork, because there's just not somebody like you in the same office or in the same town as our office, and probably not even in Connecticut, really. So it's kind of been crucial to the success of this business. And it's kind of funny. A lot of it too, if we were to hire people in office for the work that we're looking for, which is another thing that kind of Brian touched on, we might not always have the workload that they need. So whereas with Upwork, these people can still work for many other companies, and there's no guilt on our end that we need to kind of find work for them. We could just kind of use them as needed. If we were to hire them in office, there's almost like this guilt that sort of, creates the need to start giving out busy work. And it's almost like going back to school. It's just, you feel bad that you've hired somebody in office and now you feel the need to occupy their time. And, there's nothing like that. We reach out to people as needed, and we give them work as needed. And, we actually feel better that they get to go kind of do their other thing for other companies and, not be so tied up just with us and just kind of killing time. So, yeah, I mean, we've been able to find some amazing people, yourself included, to help us all over the place. And it would almost be silly, like you guys have also touched on, to kind of post an ad on all these typical job sites looking for all the positions that Brian has hired for since he started working in real estate, because it would be just incredibly expensive, incredibly inefficient. And, we would be greatly limiting ourselves. This company would not exist because there's just not that many people who specialize and excel at the things they do in our, immediate radius around our office. So
do you have any tips, Ryan, about how to manage a workforce largely composed of freelancers all over the globe? I have to imagine it creates or presents some interesting managerial problems, not least of which organizing people in, multiple time zones all around the globe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. I think I've gained a little bit of experience even before getting this job, which I didn't think would come into play, but through taking online courses in school. And you sort of see some people just sort of, fizzle out, and, they're just kind of not there when it's a virtual thing. Some people really excel in a virtual position, and some people just really disappear. And that's kind of the hardest part. Is you almost have to, it's like dancing between managing and micromanaging to some extent, because it's very easy, if we're not forcing communication, for people to just disappear. And Brian touched on that a little bit with programs like WorkSnaps, which monitors what people are doing. But, more than that, it's using software like Slack for messaging. So we're constantly communicating back and forth. And it's, making sure that we're using Skype for at least once a week, Skype calls with the team to just kind of go over what we're doing. It's even more subtle than that, where with Slack, you have the ability to post your picture to your profile. And something so simple, which honestly for months I didn't do, but you don't realize the impact that makes. You have to kind of, personalize, put faces to the names, force, weekly calls or more than weekly calls. So people kind of feel the community vibe, and you're making sure nobody kind of just gets left hanging and disappears, because it could very, very easily happen with virtual positions.
Vali, Ryan, Emerson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks a lot.
So Brian, what are you reading this week?
There's a few books that I read over and over and over again. This week, I've been going back through 10X Rules by Grant Cardone. He's a pretty pop YouTube personality. And that book, I've read a lot of Grant Cardone's books, but 10X Rules is really taking massive action on the most important things in your business. You really need to take 10 times the action if you want to get real results from something. And it's also this theory that it's always going to take 10 times more effort or money or time to push something to where you need it to go. And so if you have a goal and you're looking to reach that goal, then you're going to need to put 10 times the effort, and you're going to have to really become obsessed with achieving that. So, that's one of the books that I like to read over and over again. And I would really encourage anybody that hasn't read it to pick it up, and anybody that has read it to maybe go through it again and be inspired to take massive action.
Can you talk about how it affected your business? I know you and I, when we were talking early on in this process of getting the podcast up, you talked about how you kind of reoriented your life, started getting up earlier, set a big goal of trying to turn over a large number of houses per month. It sounds like this was the guy that inspired you to do that.
Yeah. In terms of real estate investing, the most important activity that we engage in is making offers, because if we're going to buy houses, and we're going to buy a lot of houses, we're going to need to make a lot of offers. And that was really the reason I built the software, the offer automation software. And it's about becoming more systematic and more automated with the offers we're pushing out. And I did that so that we can make 10 times as many offers. And if we could make 10 times as many offers, we can get that many more deals, and we could achieve the goal that we were looking to achieve of the 100 plus properties.
That's the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. You can find a link to it in the show notes. That's all the time we have for this edition of the show. Don't forget to rate the podcast in iTunes or Google Play. It's the best way for other people to find the show. We'll see you next time.